No, it must have been a couple days ago. It was either Monday or Tuesday. You were copied, Steve.
The preliminary COS, it's pretty well ready.
I know that the sewer district trustee election, they overwhelmingly voted in favor of two trustees that I hear are anti-sewer.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that'll we'll see
That,
what's gonna we'll see what happens
that ensures that this will be with us for a while yet.
there. It's
Perhaps as long as the Pine Drive saga.
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so this is Joanne from Sealy Lake, and I just saw those results too. But the last election was the same outcome. And when they started understanding that, they could be held responsible for depriving the community of those many tens of millions of dollars, two of them quit quite promptly. So it'll be interesting to see how this one goes. My 2 cents.
Right.
That's a
All
good
right.
perspective, Joanne, because I'm on the outside looking in.
Okay, so given that it's 2 o'clock, so Juan, are you on the call? I want to make sure.
I am. Sorry.
Okay, no, I was just double checking before we started.
Okay.
All right, seeing that it's Thursday, May 7th at 2 o'clock, we will call to order this public meeting. Our first bit of business is to acknowledge that this event takes place in the Aboriginal territories of the Salish and Kalispel people. And with that, would you join me in the pledge? All right, I think Amy's putting the flag up. Okay, pledge allegiance. Here we go. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, any public announcements? We have one on our agenda, but there may be others. Dave or Juan, do you have the Kids to Parks Day proclamation?
I know Emmy just sent it out, and I'm really slow about changing screens and reopening windows.
Terrible at it too.
I've got it right here if you want me to read it.
Oh, please, Dave, go for it. You would help us all out.
Okay. Proclamation of Missoula County, Montana. Whereas May 16th, 2020 is the 10th Kids to Parks Day, organized and launched by the National Park Trust, held annually on the third Saturday of May. And whereas Kids to Parks Day empowers kids and encourages families to get outdoors and visit America's parks, public lands, and waters. And whereas we should encourage children to lead a more active lifestyle to combat issues of childhood obesity, diabetes, hypertension, and hypercholesterolemia. And whereas Kids to Parks Day will broaden children's appreciation for nature and outdoors, now therefore we, the Missoula County Commissioners in the state of Montana, do hereby proclaim May 16, 2020 as Kids to Parks Day. And what the proclamation does not say is that probably under the circumstances, kids in parks should stay socially distanced from one another.
Yeah.
Physically just.
Physically, emotionally close, yes.
Playgrounds are closed, but parks are open. Okay, thank you, Dave. All right, do we have any public comment on items not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll jump to the super riveting announcement of our current claims list. Claims received as of April 2nd, 2020 to April 29, 2020 by the Commissioner's Office total $5,206,575.83. Okay, today we have 4 public hearings, and the first one concerns a resolution creating Missoula's aquatic invasive species district with our very own Bryce Christensen. So Bryce, if you're here, take us away.
Yeah, I am.
Thanks, Bryce.
Yeah, so thanks for having me this afternoon. I'll keep my presentation fairly brief because I think some people were going to call in and provide public comment on the creation of this district. But I wanted to just go over briefly why we are moving forward with creating this district and how this resolution goes about doing that. So first of all, on why we are moving forward with creating this AIS district is that we have amazing resources to protect in Missoula County. And we have a ton of people that love visiting and recreating on the waters within Missoula County. The Clearwater Watercraft Inspection Station that we currently contract with FWP is the busiest station in the state. Last year, we had over 20,000 watercraft inspections. This year, after being open for only 3 weekends, we were already at 1,700 inspections, which is double where we were last year. So even under these current circumstances, people are getting out and enjoying our water resources. Putting that in perspective with the idea of aquatic invasive species, the economic damages of just invasive mussels in Montana was estimated through the Flathead Biological Station at $234 million a year if we had the same level of infestations that they have around the Great Lakes. And that's just in direct mitigation costs and lost revenue to stakeholders around those water bodies. So we have amazing resources and major reasons to protect them. Second is that we've developed great partnerships with their watershed groups within Missoula County. Not only do we work with watershed groups like the Clearwater Resource Council, Swan Valley Connections, and Blackfoot Challenge, but we've also developed really strong working relationships with federal partners like the Lolo and Flathead and Region 1 of the Forest Service, tribal partners like the Confederated Salish and Kootenai Tribes and Salish Kootenai College, our state partners like DNRC and FWP, and we've even built strong working relationships with international partners like researchers with Cavi Swiss, who are developing biocontrol options for aquatic species like flowering rush. 3, this is a good opportunity for us to formalize the work that we're already doing. Currently, we're doing our AIS work under the authority granted to us through our contract with FWP for the station, and then for aquatic species listed on the noxious weed list under the County Weed Act. But as species priorities shift, we focus more on aquatic species that may not necessarily be on that list, like fragrant water lily. This will provide the structure for us to take those species on as the public brings them to us. And 4, we just have an opportunity to increase the resources that we bring to our partners by formalizing the work that we do in Missoula County. And we also have an opportunity to provide an example to other county weed districts to follow if they choose to get more involved in AIS or if they choose to get involved in other taxes in the future. Don't know if you guys have seen, we have some amazing Asian hornets coming into the U.S. and Washington now, so maybe we'll have a hornet district here soon.
They're in Washington now?
They are.
Are they headed? These are the 2-inch murder hornets.
Correct.
Holy man. And they're headed.
So there's always new stuff coming.
And do we have an ETA on the murder hornets?
You know, they haven't done a lot of modeling for the U.S. They are west of the Cascades right now, so definitely a different climate. But Washington is putting together some really good informational webinars, so I'll have more information on those here pretty soon.
We need to let these hornets know that the governor's instituted a 14-day quarantine for people traveling in from the state, and then
let's build a wall at Lookout Pass.
Yeah, there we go.
Nice.
Dang.
So moving on with this resolution, I wanted to talk briefly about how or what authority we were using to create this resolution. And in the 2015 session, language was added to the aquatic invasive species statute, under MCA 7-22-2601. that allows counties located within the Columbia River Basin to adopt ordinances and resolutions regarding the prevention or control of aquatic species within their county. And so we would be using that authority to, one, create this aquatic invasive species district, and then have that district governed by a board appointed by you, the Missoula Board of County Commissioners. The initial board members would be appointed, or that would be appointed, are the current members of the Missoula County Weed Board, and they're listed within the resolution. And then the work of the district would be conducted by the staff of the weed district. And the first duties of the board and staff would be develop bylaws, develop a list of priority invasive species with our partners, develop an invasive species strategic and operations plan, and then the budget necessary to execute that plan. So I will leave my presentation at that, and
sorry to
happy to
interrupt,
answer any
Bryce.
questions.
Hey,
Yeah.
Bryce. Sorry, there was a bike accident in front of my house. I'm sitting here. I'm going to go tend to this person. Dave,
Oh my goodness.
can you
Yeah.
you take over, or Juan, please?
Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Safe.
Okay, thanks. Juan, do you want to share, or do you want me to share? Or?
Go ahead, because my screens are moving really slow, and so yes.
Okay. Thanks, Bryce. So are there others that you have queued up, Bryce, who you'd like to speak to this?
I believe there were folks calling in. I know Joanne's on the line, but I'm not sure if some of the other folks have made it. So if Joanne wanted to speak first, I think that would work.
Let's go. Let's move into that. Joanne?
So this is Joanne. Yeah, I unmuted myself. So, well, Mr. Chair, who just walked out the window, and fellow commissioners, my name is Joanne Wallenburn, and I reside at 390 South Moncher Court in Sealy Lake. And I thank you for this opportunity to speak today. I have been engaged in the efforts to prevent the introduction of aquatic invasive species in the Clearwater chain of lakes and other neighboring lakes since 2010. I speak in support of the creation of a Missoula County AIS district. A significant portion of the county's revenues come directly and indirectly from tourism dollars. A major attractant of tourists are the beautiful mountains and mountain lakes in Missoula County and all the recreational activities they provide. Certainly, the economic health of the greater Sealy Lake region depends heavily on those tourism dollars. Additionally, a large number of the boats coming to the Clearwater Lakes come from Missoula City proper. The lakes of Missoula County improve the quality of life for the overall county population, not just those who live on or near the lakes. The biggest threat to our lakes are the invasive mussels, zebra and quagga mussels. They have been at the top of the most unwanted list across the nation for decades, and we need to keep them out of our lakes. The state has a Montana-wide one-size-fits-all program for AIS prevention and monitoring. The AIS district would not replace the state's plan. Everything the state is already doing in our area, it should continue to do. The AIS district would customize and enhance the state's efforts to meet Missoula County's specific needs for prevention and monitoring. The one-size-fits-all plan then becomes a custom-tailored plan with cooperation and coordination between state and county efforts. Efforts that are taken to prevent the introduction of the invasive mussel also help to prevent the introduction of other aquatic invasive species. So if something worse than the mussels is discovered, we will already be prepared. Just as social distancing helps prevent COVID-19, and that change in our overall social behavior will help prevent other yet-to-be-known respiratory viruses, simple changes to our behavior relative to our lakes will prevent the introduction of the mussels now and any other yet-to-be-known AIS in the future. We need to be taking special care of our special lakes ourselves, and even if there aren't county funds readily available, the county's voice will have far more leverage with state and other funding sources than local nonprofits would have. These efforts must continue forever. There is no 2-year down the road end to this, or until a surefire treatment is found, or until we have failed so miserably and are so overrun by the mussels, like Kansas, that it's futile to try to protect the few remaining uninfected lakes. I urge you to vote to approve the formation of the AIS district. Thank you.
Thanks, Joanne. Is there any other public comment on the creation of an AIS district? And it's a little awkward, I know, in this virtual world that we're living here, but to the extent we can try to avoid walking over the top of each other talking, that would be great. Anybody else?
Tom Wolf. Can you
Hi,
hear me?
Tom. Yeah, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everybody. So from the state AIS, I guess for the record, my name is Thomas Wolf. I'm the AIS Bureau Chief with Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. I just would like to put in a comment saying the AIS program supports the locally driven efforts to expand aquatic invasive species prevention, early detection, and education, as long as the effort is coordinated with the state. And I think this would be a valuable opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Tom. Additional comment?
This is
yeah, go ahead.
This is Andrew Gorder with the Clark Fork Coalition. Thank you, commissioners and others. I'll be really quick with my comments, but just here on behalf of the Clark Fork Coalition to offer our support for the resolution. You know, as a group focused on protecting the Clark Fork Basin, this issue is obviously very near and dear to our heart. And in our conversations with partners and FWP and others, you know, I just want to stress that under the current regime for dealing with this issue, municipalities and counties and local groups can often bring leverage and resources and flexibility that perhaps the state cannot in its efforts to combat aquatic invasives. So I think that this resolution speaks to that perfectly. And again, we just offer our support from the Clark Fork Coalition. So thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else like to comment? Going once, going twice.
Well, then I'm going to make a motion to request the board approve and sign the resolution creating the Missoula County Aquatic Invasive Species District. And thank you, everyone. We want to read the initial members? Is that?
Yeah, Bryce, could you tell us who will be serving as the initial slate of board members?
I can. So the board members that will be appointed to the AIS district that are currently serving on the Weed District Board would be Pat Sweeney, Dennis Vandermeer, Andy Hayes, Doug Kopp, Jim Oliveras, Dean Pearson, John Reimel, and Joanne Wallenburn.
Okay.
It's a great crew.
So we have a motion. I'll second that. One question I have for you, Bryce. So is it the case that, because one question that might come to mind for folks is, why not just create an all taxa district that would cover terrestrial, aquatics, all species? Is it the case that we are precluded from doing so by statute, and so this is the mechanism by which we have to address aquatics, or what's the current lay of the land, I guess?
Yeah, so there are a number of statutes across MCA that address different species with different authorities and different agencies. We are certainly interested in moving in that direction towards a more comprehensive all taxa approach to invasive species in Missoula. This seemed like the low-hanging fruit, one easy step for us to move in that direction. So I think it was a little more restrictive for us to take that full comprehensive chunk, but this will certainly help us move in that direction.
Okay, great. Any other questions, Juan, or discussions?
No, we got to prepare for those hornets. So thank you.
Yeah, and I guess one last question, Bryce. Are we the first in the state who has or will adopt an AIS district?
We are in Montana. Yes.
Tip of the spear, baby.
Yet again.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the resolution?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thanks,
All right.
Bryce.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Bryce and Joanne and
Yep.
Tom and Andrew. Yeah.
Thanks everyone for joining us for that. Okay, we will move on to our second action item, our second public hearing. This is a continuation of a long-standing hearing that we've had on Pine Drive up in Seeley Lake. Steve Nide or Gene Curtis, if you're on the line, would you like to bring us up to speed with where this currently sits?
Not hearing Jean, and I did not receive her last email that John apparently did. So, John Hart, can you bring us up to speed?
Yeah, I'll try to bring you up to speed. There are two sets of sisters who are the purported heirs to the last known owners of the Pine Drive property on which a right-of-way is being petitioned. As I understand it, very recently, one set of sisters got cold feet about owning the property, going through with a quiet title action that was going to be part of the agreement that they had with the district and the exchange of money from the district to the sisters. And so the email that I received earlier in the week, which I don't have in front of me to read to you, suggested to me that this was going to take a little bit more time now that one half of the purported set of heirs has walked away and washed their hands of this. So I thought that Gene Curtis, the City Lake Sewer District General Manager, would be here today to explain that, ask for a continuance. And so I believe, Commissioners, what you might want to do in coordination with Emmy is continue the hearing on this road petition probably for, I don't know, 30 days.
Steve,
Okay. Emmy, when is the next public meeting scheduled? Roughly 30 days out.
I'm looking right, so June 11th would be the next one that I see that would be 30 days out. There's a June 4th one and a May 28th, so.
Is there any harm, John, in just keeping it on the agenda until until it's resolved?
No, there isn't. There isn't. We're not running afoul of any limitations under the law.
Okay, so Emmy, let's just keep it as a standing public hearing on the agenda until we resolve it one way or the other.
Okay, will do.
Okay.
Thanks.
Jean, have you joined us? It does not look so. If she had been here, John Hart and Steve Nide had agreed to do a duet singing happy birthday to Gene Curtis today.
Is it really her birthday?
It is Jean's birthday.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, you don't want me to sing.
No. You want me to sing even less.
Okay, we will keep the public hearing on Pine Drive open, and keeping in the spirit of road petitions and rights of way and such, our next item is a public hearing that I will open, and this relates to Graves Creek. And Steve Nide, would you like to introduce this for us?
Yes, certainly. I'm going to share my screen, hopefully, and you should now be seeing an aerial image of the Graves Creek area.
I'm seeing an image of your face.
Okay, well, let me try that again.
Okay, we got it.
All right, yay. What's being petitioned is, if you can follow my cursor over here, this is where the existing old 1902 petitioned right-of-way is, and the dark black line is where the current traveled way is. The petition is to alter the right-of-way from this old location over to the new location. And from this line here north, the alteration has already taken place in previous years. So we're just basically filling in this gap here in the legal right-of-way. Dave and I went out as road viewers, and I will read the report. The date of the viewing was April 23rd, 2020. In attendance, David Strohmeyer, myself, Steve Nide, a local resident, Matt Clary, and another local resident, Stuart Larkin. At approximately 2:45 p.m., the attendees met at the site of the subject road right-of-way. An investigation and discussion ensued. The portion of the right-of-way under consideration is from a 1902 petitioned road. That road is located 300 to 600 feet east of Graves Creek Road. Graves Creek Road is maintained by Missoula County and has been the road used by the general public for at least 50 years. This alteration would result in a 60 feet wide right-of-way centered on Graves Creek Road, eliminating the right-of-way in its previous location. The undersigned road viewers recommend altering the road right-of-way as described in the petition. End of report.
Thanks, Steve.
Anything to add, Dave, other than there are no turkeys?
No, it was an exhaustive investigation. So it was fairly straightforward compared to some similar petitions that we've reviewed. So I guess I would just, at this point, open the public hearing. Is there any public comment on this particular road petition? Anyone out there? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Any questions, Juanita?
No, thank you so much. So I move that the board approve the petition to alter the right-of-way known as Graves Creek Road.
I will second that. Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thanks, Steve.
Yes,
Thanks.
thank you, commissioners. And this time I will remember to turn my camera off.
Okay. There he is. Okay. Goodbye, Steve. Okay, our fourth and final public hearing today is on the proposed Levinson family transfer, and we will begin with a staff report by Matt Hamill.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. This is Matt Hamill with CAPS. I'll go ahead and share my screen now to show a PowerPoint. Is everyone seeing the PowerPoint on my screen?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not yet, Juan?
No, we're slow out here in Greeno.
Okay. The image is at Potomac now. It's coming your way.
Here we go. Got it. Thank you.
All good. Okay, so this is a request by Shannon Levinson to create 2 additional tracks through a family transfer exemption for transfer to immediate family members. So here's a zoomed out aerial image showing the location. So the 290-acre subject property is in the Alberton area, north of I-90 and Highway 10 west. It is unzoned, there is no floodplain on the property, and the growth policy recommends a density of 1 dwelling unit per 40 acres, that's 40, per the 2002 Regional Land Use Plan following the 1975 Comprehensive Plan. Here's a closer image of the existing tract prepared by the claimant's agent. And here is a image showing the proposed lot layout prepared by the claimant's agent. And so this is showing the what would be the final configuration with 3 total tracks. So starting on the right side of the screen or the east side of the property, that would be proposed track number 3, which would be remained in ownership by the claimant, and that would be about 102 acres in area. Moving counterclockwise to the upper left portion of the screen or the northwest part of the property, that would be track number 2, proposed to be transferred to the claimant's wife, Anne, and that would be about 108.8 acres. Moving south from there to the bottom left part of the screen is proposed tract 1 to be transferred to the claimant's mother, Sherry, at 81 acres in area. And the application states that these tracts are intended for residential use by the recipients. And here's just another aerial image showing the nearby vicinity and roads. One update I'd like to provide about the use for the tracts. So I saw as of April 25th, there is a septic permit issued for the property. And this is just information that is since the staff report was published. I just want to make sure people know about. So this septic permit is for serving future development, and it doesn't note any details for the development. It's just a septic permit gearing up for potential future use. So it's designed for residential use, either 2 to 3 bedrooms plus, as noted. We don't have any permits in for actual structures at this time. So for any family transfer exemption request, we review the rebuttable presumptions and evasion criteria to look for the intent to evade subdivision review by use of the subdivision exemption. And so in the review of this application, staff noted that there were 5 of those criteria, and that was the basis for a recommendation of denial for the family transfer. And I'll go over each of those 5 briefly. So the first of 5 is that the parcel is to be gifted to the claimant's spouse. The second criteria being that ownership of the claimant was finalized in the last 2 years in 2019. Third criteria being that the requested exemption is not suitable for the purpose of the family transfer division due to the nature of the application. And in that, it was unclear in staff's analysis about the exact intent for the recipients to reside on the parcel, or ones that could be accomplished through a minor subdivision as well. And the fourth criteria being that the division could be accomplished through different means. And in that, there are potentially multiple tracks due to Highway 10 West bisecting the southwest portion of the property. So it's possible that a boundary line. Excuse me.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat your third one again? I'm sorry.
Okay, so the third criteria was that a requested exemption, the requested exemption is not suitable for the purpose of a family transfer division. And the intent of the family transfer is to create tracts for the immediate family members to reside on. And in staff's analysis, it was unclear that the recipients do intend to reside on the property.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, sure. And the fourth criteria being that, as stated, the Highway 10 West goes through the property, and it's possible that that creates multiple tracts, and a boundary line relocation could be explored for a different lot layout than what was proposed here. And
to create 4 then, or I'm confused. The highway goes through it, and sorry, go ahead, Dave.
No, Matt, do you want to take another run at your fourth point in terms of how the highway alignment would create a separate tract or configuration of tracts?
So we would need some more information from the applicant on the tracks, but it's possible that a boundary line relocation could be explored as a way to reconfigure tracks. And so we're seeing that not all the possibilities have been exhausted. That could be alternative to a family transfer.
So do you know offhand how many within this larger kind of parent parcel, how many other tracts there would be or boundary lines that could be relocated?
I don't know offhand. That would take some additional parcel history research, and it's possible that the applicant's agent has some more information if they're on the call with us today.
Okay, fair enough. We'll come back to that later.
Okay.
And did you have a fifth one or what?
Yeah, so fifth is just finally that the information and exhibits submitted with the affidavit show that the intent to evade subdivision review has been identified.
Okay.
And so with that, I have I'm sorry if I interrupted.
No, that's okay. Go ahead. I think I was going to prompt you for exactly what you're starting to lead into.
Okay, yeah. The next part of the presentation was just to ask five questions for the claimant.
Is the applicant on the line? Is the applicant or the applicant's representative on the line with us today? Double check to make sure you're not on mute if you are joining us for the Levinson family transfer.
I believe he is online. Just hold on one moment for him to unmute.
Okay, thank you.
There appears to be a problem with his computer functioning to get unmuted.
Does he have does he have just a standard phone that he could dial in on?
He's on the line, but he cannot be heard by you for some reason. He doesn't know why. Maybe he needs to dial in instead. He's trying that right now.
Okay, thanks.
Hello, this is Shannon.
Hi, Shannon. We have a.
Hey, sorry about that.
That's okay. Could you state your full name for the record, please?
Yeah, Shannon Levinson.
Thank you, Shannon. We have a few questions for you that Matt Hamill on our planning staff will ask.
Okay, great. And I was trying to ask if you would like me to chime in regarding some of the points that Matt made, or if you want me to wait until after the questions.
Yeah, let's wait.
Regarding the. Go ahead.
Sure. Let's wait until after his set of questions. Then we can. Then you can certainly chime in on anything that you'd like.
Okay. Excellent. How you
Okay,
doing, Matt?
Shannon. I have 5 questions. Question 1: did you buy the property with the intent of dividing it?
No, I did not.
Thank you. Second question: do you or your transferees intend to transfer the property within the next year?
We do not.
Thank you. Third question: have you talked to anyone at the county about going through subdivision review?
No, I have not.
Thank you. 4: will the property be developed?
Yeah, we are working on some development plans, specifically a glamping style eco resort on part of the property that we intend to include. We're in talks with a bison rancher for use of the property, and also some different tour guides and activities that be available for public use as well as guest use. So that's kind of what we're exploring right now, which speaks to the inquiries that you'd received that you noted in the staff report.
Okay, thank you.
And then in addition to that, the new parcels we intend to create sort of a family retreat or family vacation lodgings of some sort in the future.
Okay. And last question, will the recipient of property be residing on the property?
We don't have immediate plans to reside on the property, but our thinking was that, and of course with the current pandemic, it's become even more of a potential reality, was that this would be a place that, should the need arise, that our families could move to and reside on, which again is part of the reason why I'm looking to create the two new parcels so that it can accommodate my family, my mother and father's family, and then my wife's family as well, should the need arise. But in the meantime, we're intending to use it for vacation and recreation purposes.
Okay, thank you. That concludes my presentation and questions.
Thanks. So Shannon, if you'd like to address anything that you had heard earlier, and then we might have some additional questions for you. And I don't know, is your representative here who also wants to speak?
That I am not sure about, but if they are, they're certainly welcome to join in and speak.
Okay, and you're represented by Territorial Land Works, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, just for starters, yeah, feel free to add anything else that you'd like us to know, or address any of the points that were made previously.
Sure. The one point in particular that I wanted to address was about Highway 10 bisecting the property, and it's my understanding via Territorial's research that is an easement, not a division, so it would not allow for a boundary line relocation. That is an option that we did explore, and given that it's an easement, that doesn't appear to create an additional parcel there that we could move. And furthermore, if it did, then that parcel would be, my understanding is that parcel would be kind of stuck where it is as a result of being bisected by that highway, were it not an easement. So it wouldn't allow for the current configuration.
Okay.
In addition to that, I'm not sure. Sorry, I was trying to call in and I lost track of what the other points were. Were there other points that I could clarify?
That's okay. Yeah. Before you do, though, Matt, could you bring up the plat or the map on the screen again?
Sure, I can bring that up and just leave it.
Okay. Shannon, could you speak to, so of the parcels that are being created, which one are you envisioning as being the site of your eco resort?
That would be track number 3, so the one that's remaining with me. And in what's the northeast corner, basically the northeast the northern half of that would be the primary location with access from the southern point off of Highway 10.
And could you describe a little bit more in terms of how you see that operating, in terms of numbers of guests and specific services offered to guests?
At this point in time, we're anticipating it being fairly rustic, small scale. We're looking into the guest ranch
Small,
process, I guess.
Guest ranch.
Right.
Yep.
So with non-permanent structures, lodging structures, and things of that nature. And like I said, perhaps some bison grazing and small scale agriculture to support it, things of that nature. Part of my part of my background is in green building and sustainable design. So the idea of creating something that's sustainable and protects the environment, but also allows for the enjoyment of this property by people outside my family is something that we're interested in, while also preserving, with the other two tracks, the opportunity for my family to continue to have parts of the property that are for our own private use.
And the parcel that you'd be looking at gifting to your spouse would not be residing on that, but that would be for her family?
For her, yeah, for her and her family.
So
we all come from large, close families.
Right, I guess that. I just want to get clear. So, would your spouse be residing separately from you on that parcel?
No, but were we to move there, then theoretically, her family could have a place to live on that parcel, whereas myself and my family could have a place to live on the parcel that's remaining with me. Basically, it's a way to try to prevent, potential squabbles between the in-laws and the outlaws, and create a space for everybody to be able to call their own and do with more or less as they please without worrying about stepping on toes and things of that nature.
Thanks. Juanita, do you have any questions at this point?
Well, I was wondering if Matt or Tim, I think I ask this all the time, but what's the right process if staff is recommending denial of this ask, what is the right question Shannon needs to be asking then?
How to do minor subdivision, I'm assuming. Matt or John, would you like to chime in?
If we recommend a denial on this because we've identified criteria for the evasion of subdivision review, then we would think that one of the right ways to proceed with a proposal would be a minor subdivision application.
And Shannon, have you looked in? Well, I guess not. If you've not talked to anyone about subdivision.
No, part of the reason that I have pursued this way is that we've actually owned property in Montana since 2009. We had a tract in San Ignatius, and then we bought another tract in Darby, which my father owned and completed a family transfer down there, which was a relatively easy process and seemed to be the right situation for this. We've also owned property in Jackson as well. So we've had success with the family transfer process previously, and given the size and limited number of parcels here, it seemed like that was the correct route to go on this property as well.
Thanks. Let's before we go any further, let's see if there's any other public who wants to comment on this, or I don't know if your Territorial Landworks representative has joined us on the line. Or Shannon, I don't know if your spouse or anyone from your family is also available and wants to speak to this.
My spouse is not. She's currently caring for our children, which is why I wasn't able to make the Monday call, which I apologize for.
No,
we're taking turns working and child rearing, as I'm sure a lot of people on the call are.
No, understood. I'm hoping as we speak, my children are rearing themselves on another floor of the house. So
I believe my father may be on the line. If you want to hear from him for any reason, I'm not sure about that.
Sure, I see a number. Yeah.
Yeah, totally up to him. If he wants to speak, that would be fine, or not. That's okay.
I just have a couple of comments.
And sir, could you identify yourself for the record, please?
I'm the dad, Dave Levinson,
Okay, thank you.
and listening to the 5 reasons why staff suggested denial. Actually, there's only 4, because number 5 was reciting that they didn't think that it should be done, not really a reason. But the first 4, one of them was that it was to his wife, which doesn't appear from what we've heard from territorial to be a reason. Another one was that it was purchased in a year ago or so, which I don't know why that would be a reason. So if you go through their reasons for denial, I didn't hear any that were anything besides just staff opinion.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to comment on this proposal? Okay. I'm
Matt
sorry,
was
Juan.
I couldn't tell if Matt was wanting to say something.
I can. So each of those points in the staff analysis regarding the rebuttable presumptions and subdivision evasion criteria, one by itself does not create the reasons behind a staff recommendation to denial, but each of those can build the case for a recommendation based on staff then believing that the application represents the intent to evade subdivision review. So between the proposed transfer to a spouse, the recent ownership, and the unclear intent to reside on the property, and the possibility for bound joint relocation, which now we learn territorial might have some additional information on, those create a presentation that staff would think in the analysis that the intent is clear to evade subdivision review, to use the family transfer exemption as opposed to going through a minor subdivision review.
Yeah, so in other words, none of these singularly on their own are necessarily, or even collectively, necessarily a demonstration that subdivision review is trying to be avoided. But our experience, and this is why we ask the particular questions that we do, our experience is drawn from instances where, or the questions are drawn from our experience of instances where folks actually have flipped parcels because they simply transferred it to a spouse, and that's been just kind of a ploy in order to subdivide the parcel without going through subdivision, and then it's essentially been sold off to another party.
Sure. Yeah. In this instance, if we are successful with the guest ranch and such, then obviously that parcel would be, for my personal use with my wife as well, because the other part would be, the part remaining with me would be primarily for public use and guest use. If that helps provide any clarity on that in terms of the reasoning for the transfer to the wife as well.
Thanks. I'll go ahead and close the public hearing, and we can have some additional discussion. I guess from my perspective, I've got a couple big concerns. One, and I totally get it in terms of trying to create a mechanism by which you have property that would accommodate family members and avoid disputes down the road. But the way I think we've approached these family transfers is that it's not only to an acceptable, per state law, an acceptable transferee or family member, but that family member will actually be residing on that parcel, which is a bit of a red flag if it's a spouse. And secondly, and probably more importantly for me, would be the worry that all of the review that would be entailed in a minor subdivision to accommodate a commercial enterprise like an eco resort, of which there will be some impacts and challenges that will need to be addressed, are not being addressed through a simple process like a family transfer. Most of these family transfers that we see don't involve any planned commercial enterprise and are simply transfers to a child or a family member who will then reside on that, not involving anything more than a residence of some sort. So,
right. Well, that would be the parcel that's remaining with me. And of course, we will go through all the necessary planning and permitting for that project as that moves down the road. Should it come to fruition, which obviously is maybe in question. We think it's probably the right thing for the current environment, but who knows? Given the way things are today.
Yeah, nothing I'm saying is meant to imply it's not a good use of the property or a viable economic enterprise. It's more of the process to get there and what impacts would be identified in a minor subdivision review versus a simple family transfer.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
And provide protections for yourself going forward for that enterprise. I mean, to have that level of review.
Mm-hmm. And with that would be, well, if you want to close the public hearing and speak on that further, we can. But that would be different than simply. I'm just wondering if that would not be accomplished via the process of receiving the permits and the business permits and everything needed for that project on that individual parcel, which would then be separated off from the additional land that I own. I feel like that might relieve some liability by limiting the scope to the intended parcel and not having it be lumped into the greater parcel as a whole.
Matt or John or anyone else from our planning staff, would you like to speak to the sorts of impacts that would be evaluated through a minor subdivision that would not necessarily be caught in this process, even if you take into account the permitting process that would be required for any sort of development?
One impact that comes to mind would be review for impacts on public health and safety and emergency services, namely wildfire risk, and reviewing for adequate provisions for a fire suppression. One item, for example.
How about transportation?
Transportation as well, looking for adequate access and road widths and design that matches Missoula County standards, as opposed to if this came through as a land use permit, those items might not necessarily be caught or addressed.
John Hart, do you have anything else you'd like to add process-wise, differentiating between the sort of review that we would see as far as the land permitting process versus minor subdivision?
No, I don't, Commissioner Strohmeyer. Matt Hamill is far more familiar with that subdivision review process, and I think identified a couple of what are probably a few more detailed reviews that would happen through the minor subdivision process.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Vero, any other questions, comments?
I guess where I'm just kind of landing this is just, I feel like I want Shannon, for you to be able to go forward with what you want to do, and I feel that you'd be best protected and successful by going through minor subdivision review. And I know that it seems onerous because you've had a different experience elsewhere, but the process is there to protect you. And so I'm just wishing that you had that opportunity to have those conversations first. But I guess this is also part of the process. And now I'm just thinking out loud that you would have been able to have those conversations to go through this process, which you're doing right now. Yeah, in order to have a fuller conversation about what could be done.
Yeah. And if the commercial component were not part of this, would that change your opinion on this at all? If it were simply for familial use, family retreats and the like?
But then we don't. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, for me, it would still be an issue that that the parcels are simply being created for some future use of family members, as opposed to the individuals by which the properties are being gifted actually being the ones who are residing on those parcels.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't understand that the residency was part of the requirement. I don't think that was the case in Darby, obviously. Okay, so the process for
minor subdivision.
For minor subdivision review, I guess that's detailed on your website, or
Well, I think you could probably follow up with Matt Hamill, the planner on this call after the fact, and get some more details on how that would proceed.
So then I guess.
Is there? Go ahead.
Nope. Go ahead.
I was going to ask if there is any sort of configuration or any alteration in this plan that would make you comfortable with approving it as a family transfer rather than going through the minor subdivision review process.
I don't know what that would be at this point. That would probably require a new application to come through.
But you could talk to Matt about that, and to talk to I'm sorry, I'm not seeing who your representative is, territorial, about that, and resubmit a different proposal if because now you know what boxes need checking.
But clearly, at least from my perspective, with what you've described today, as far as how you envision the property being used in the future, minor subdivision, at least here in Missoula County, would seem like the appropriate path forward. So I think we probably need to dispense with this, resolve it today.
I'll resolve this immediate issue and motion to deny this application to utilize a family transfer exemption. And then, yes, Shannon, really hope that you circle up with Matt and territorial, and we can help you kind of realize your plans.
Yeah, I will second that. Matt, did you have specific motion language that we?
Oh, I'm sorry. Request.
There we go. Do you want to just read that into the record?
There we go.
Yeah, sorry. I request that the board deny the application by Shannon Levinson to utilize the family transfer exemption to create and transfer 2 parcels to immediate family members as presented in the exemption application affidavit. Is that the correct language?
Yeah, that's correct. I will second that. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thanks for joining us, Shannon. And like I say, I'd encourage you to reach out to our planning staff for some other options.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'll look into that and appreciate you guys' time. Yeah, I'm a little bit unclear still. I understand what you guys are saying, but in terms of the criteria used for that denial, I'm still a little bit unclear on how it together creates a preponderance of evidence. But I do appreciate your time and the explanations that I've received on the phone here today, and yeah, hope that you guys are all remaining safe, and we'll probably be talking again soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Matt. Any other business to come before the commission today? Okay, and hopefully everything was okay with the bike accident in front of Commissioner Slotnick's house.
Yeah.
So without any further business, we will be adjourned.